Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Games Industry Executive Summary. This is Casey, and with us today we have the beautiful Patrick Rose for the second time. Welcome back, Patrick.
Hi, thank you for saying I'm beautiful since I'm not even shaved since you pulled me into this like last minute.
You're rugged today. I mean, hey, I really appreciate this. This is like it's funny. I just pinged you like a couple minutes ago, and you're like, okay, let's do it. Let's freaking do it. So I really appreciate this. I had some people both backstabbing me and like you know telling me they're really sick last minute. Um,
But
well,
I'm always there for you, for all of
you are
you.
you are absolutely always there for me, so I really appreciate this. Today, since we don't have Dave and Manu with us, we're gonna see which last time me you had a conversation, there were some topics that we're like, okay, we don't know what to say here, so we'll move on. So I guess we'll do the same thing. Um, but by the way, Patrick, maybe we'll share quickly, like what are you up to? I mean, where are you right now?
Oh, I'm in the outskirts of Thailand, I guess. So yeah, I just really try to get away from people because I had so many people around me lately. Lovely people though, but it has been a lot of people, especially since I've been visiting the Game Dev Summit in the Philippines, which was a great event. It was incredible. I met so many new people there, so many talents. I talked so much, and now I'm trying to follow up with everyone. But I'm also really, really happy to have a little bit of a break here. I have the beach right in front of my house. It's so beautiful over here. I'm going to stay for a few weeks, still working there, still in business. That's what I'm doing right now. And
And
well,
you're coming to Europe soon, right?
I will be back in Europe specifically in May. I'll be ready for the Nordic Game Conference, of course. That's going to be
Yes.
fun. Our little project with the workshops and
Yes.
everything we're doing
I mean,
there.
we haven't talked about that openly, but I have no issues talking about it. Like, we're doing like a masterclass day with Nordic Game this year, and of course, Patrick is one of our partners joining us during that event. So that's going to be really exciting, and of course, we'll share more information about that soon. But Patrick, how about we? I know that you don't have a lot of time today. Again, really appreciate that you could join us. Shall we jump into the newsletter and see what's up?
Yes. What are the topics actually?
Well, I mean, the first one is really interesting. I feel like that there's a lot of value in that one, which is 3 years later, the Steam Deck has dominated handheld PC gaming. I'm not sure about the PC gaming part. I would just say handheld. I mean, obviously, probably didn't sell as much as Nintendo, but still has a big impact. But I'd love to hear from you if you have any thoughts about this.
Yeah, the laws of nature of the games industry. One of them is accessibility, and this is also one of the big success factors of the Switch, making games accessible, playable at any time. You can just pick it up and play. It's the thing that made free to play overall super successful because super accessible for everyone. Especially most free to play games are on mobile, extremely successful. Accessibility is the thing. So even core audiences like the PC audience, they will appreciate accessibility in any way. And of course, if there's like a device that can make your favorite PC games more accessible, why wouldn't you use it? Seriously, why wouldn't you use it? You're not always at home. You're not always in the mood to turn on your big machine and everything. If you have your device there, you can have the same fun with that device right on the couch. Why wouldn't you use it? Obviously.
Patrick, I was gonna say, as I get older, I don't have the energy anymore to sit on the
Yeah.
PC like I'm doing right now. But I would add also, last time we spoke about the Steam Deck, I was mentioning that my brother's son was playing. He's 5 years old. No, sorry, give me a second. He's actually 3 or 4, and he was playing Marvel Rivals on the Steam Deck. So enabling people to play maybe even high-end games on this small device at a much cheaper entry point, do you think that has an impact as well? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't need to invest
absolutely.
in a 20 like a $2,000 PC anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Accessibility works on every level. Pricing, tech, the hardware you require, and also the entire game design, and especially Marvel Rivals is a comparably accessible team. Is shooter the right word? Even like, like team whatever that is, team battle game, and hero
shooter.
Hero shooter. Yeah, I'm sometimes I'm a little bit hesitant calling it a shooter because, well, every character works very different in that game, right? So yeah, but you get the point.
Absolutely.
And making these things accessible. Fortnite did the same thing, especially in comparison with PUBG at that time, making a more accessible version to PUBG, and suddenly you make much more money than that game that is less accessible, and there you are.
I do want to point out a small snippet from this article before we move over to the next item. But the estimated combined shipments of the Steam Deck is bigger than all other competitors combined, excluding Nintendo. So when it comes to Asus ROG, Lenovo, and MSI, etc., basically it seems like the Steam Deck is dwarfing them in numbers. But yeah, it's really cool to see. I think it feels like handhelds are here to stay. That's my takeaway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the next item, which is Monolith, the studio behind Shadow of Mordor.
Right.
And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Nemesis system that they created.
I love the Nemesis system.
Tell us more about that thing. Why is that thing important? Like, how does it work?
Well, the really nice thing about it, I think nobody speaks about the Nemesis system the way I do, because I look at it from a narrative perspective. What the Nemesis system did was, by game design, there was a narrative, somewhat randomized narrative, but a narrative behind each of your potential enemies in the game, and each of your enemies could climb higher in the orc hierarchy, right, and become like stronger rivals and have their own story, history, plot almost within that game. And it's all like emerging from the gameplay. You beat the same enemy over and over and over again. They will change in their behavior, they will change in their attributes, they will change even in their looks and everything, and they will become your actual nemesis in the game. Up to that point, spoiler alert, they will even become part of the ending of the game to a degree that they will be one of, if I remember correctly, it's a while ago since I played that, but they will become one of the last bosses you're fighting, emerging from your playthrough. And that was just a genius system. And right, which shall not be copied by anyone, because it's they have a patent on that.
They have a patent. That's Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's Warner Brothers.
It's also a bit ridiculous that there's a patent on that type of thing. It's a game design thing, right? More or less. It's not like it's a tech that they have a patent on.
Yeah, it's a great and interesting system. I understand that people want to like protect their rights and their creativity and everything and the money they can make with it. On the other hand, I don't think that patents are always a good thing for societies either. So it's a little bit of a tricky question eventually if it's a good thing or bad thing.
Yeah. Do you have any, Monolith, I'm trying to think about what other games they made apart from Shadow of Mordor. I'm not sure if it comes to mind right now. I'm trying to find
I would have to look that up as well.
Give me a second. I have it here on Wikipedia. So, they did Condemn, they did Fear. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my god, they worked on the Matrix Online? I completely forgot about that. I mean, that was a long time ago. But I mean, you look at this, the list of games that they've worked on, historically speaking. I mean, there's a lot of amazing games on this list. Fear 2. We spoke about that. They had some duds, like Gotham City Imposters, but again, it's very unfortunate to see such a studio kind of disappear after 30 years. By the way, this is another example. Like, it feels like after Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, they haven't shipped anything since 2017. So it makes you wonder, like, where that project was going, the Wonder Woman project. But I
Right.
won't, I won't stay on that one for too long. Shall I move on to the next item?
I mean, I do have some ideas about what happened to Monolith, but I don't really have the details, so I don't want to say anything wrong there. But yeah, I must agree, it is sad. Then also we have to we have to remind ourselves these specialists, these experts, these geniuses in that company who worked for their company before, they're not gone. They're still with us, obviously, hopefully, and they will usually remain in the games industry. And maybe we find other games at some point made by them, and maybe we even get to work with them at some point. That would be really nice, actually. I would love to work with them.
Absolutely. Okay, then I'll move over to the next item, Patrick, which is that Konami and Bloober to follow Silent Hill 2 remake with brand new game. I know that the Silent Hill 2 game, the remake one, was received with like extremely positive reviews. I know the sales haven't been like the best, but I'm really happy about this news. Have you played Silent Hill 2?
I have played the original, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. I really love it. I'm traveling since, as you know, I'm traveling for a few months now. I didn't really get to play a lot of the big games out there that released last year. But as soon as I'm back to Germany, this is one of the first games I will start with my PlayStation 5. I
Oh wow.
promise.
Okay, that's cool to hear. Um, do you have any thoughts about Konami as a company making games? I know they have other businesses, but I feel like Konami has like they had a big rise during the early 2000s and then even the 90s, of course. But then they kind of disappeared, and they only had like two games maybe. I know they have other things. They had some investments into mobile as well, but they kind of fizzled out. And now it seems like they are coming back to a certain degree. Is there anything that you know there about Konami specifically?
Well, Konami is a Japanese company after all, and Japanese companies often struggle with traditions. And it's often, these days especially, it's really difficult for them to keep up with new market conditions, especially if it comes to the Western markets and everything. And Konami is having that same problem. Capcom has been doing pretty well with overcoming these kind of problems lately. Konami also is doing some smart moves there. I mean, just talking about something like Metal Gear, for example, and staying very, very close to the original Metal Gear Snake Eater, right? That's going to help a lot. I'm a big Kojima fan, so I'm not sure if this is actually if, uh, if this is the kind of Metal Gear game I would like to have, like a one-to-one kind of remake. I would prefer if Kojima himself actually made a new Metal Gear or would create something like that. But we will not see that happening too soon, I guess.
Those days are
Yeah.
over.
However, they are doing a few things right here, I think, especially catering the traditional fan bases,
Yeah.
uh, which a lot of companies don't take care so much of anymore. Just mentioning, like maybe Ubisoft, maybe EA, they are having troubles catering those traditional audiences, plus also being appealing to new audiences out there. They seem to fail at both these days, and at least Konami is taking care of their traditional audiences.
Yeah, we just need a Castlevania now. And by
Yes.
the way, speaking of Capcom, I mean, talking about like a resurgence in a company making a huge comeback and like throwing these amazing games back and forth. And tomorrow, Monster Hunter Wilds is released. So that's a game that I know, at least where I work, a lot of people are going to buy that game tomorrow. And we've already set up like a group that we're gonna start playing together. So that's in the game I'm looking forward to. Um, okay,
I'm a veteran in that game, by the way. I played the PlayStation 2 version even of Monster Hunter, so
oh
a
wow,
very early adapter.
okay, there you go then. So maybe I'll see you on the wilds. Um, the next item on the list, Patrick, is about Fable. because Fable is now delayed to 2026. I personally have never understood the fandom or why Fable is an important franchise. Do you know anything about Fable?
Yeah, I've played Fable. I think the first game, and was it the second one? I think the second one, or was it the third one? Was the one with King, I think, and the second one was I think I played the second one especially. So Fable was always a little bit of a quirky game, and I think one of the main reasons why people purchased it in the first place was all the things a certain person said. That person is also going to be at the Nordic game, I feared, by the way.
Are we talking about Peter Molyneux?
Yes. I had a small exchange with him once, by the way. I almost became his sparring partner, but then I didn't.
Okay.
That's a story for
Here
another
we
day.
are.
Right. I mean, we know him. We have all heard about him, right? And he is really good at making big promises, and then is a little bit. It's a little bit difficult to actually meet these expectations then often when you make big promises. So maybe he was not the greatest at expectation management at all times. However, I still consider him as an extremely creative person with a lot of vision, and it's good to have big visions and ideas out there. Sometimes you don't have the teams to actually fulfill these visions, or maybe sometimes also you have been thinking too big. That happens to everyone. So for the Fable series, it was really, really typical that big promises have been made, and people had high expectations. People pre-ordered, especially at that time where internet was not a big and accessible thing as these days. Like these days, people on the internet will tell you, please don't pre-order because, danger. But at that time, our how should I put that, education level was a little different. And then we just purchased the games based on promises of the big people we knew, right? And that was probably one big part of the success factor of the original Fable games. And then also there has been a lot of very cool, interesting stuff happening in these fantasy worlds. And these have been open worlds, AAA fantasy titles, or semi-open world titles. And they have been fun, right? Maybe not necessarily that 90% plus Metacritic's kind of fun, but fun enough for broad audiences, and also quite accessible for such kind of fantasy game. They were quite easy to pick up in comparison to like Elder Scroll games, for example, and quite accessible and straightforward. And at the same time, they gave you a lot of freedom for like pursuing your own creativity within the games. So that has been a lot of advantages there at that time. These days, I believe I saw that trailer yesterday. Actually, was it today? This morning? I don't remember. I think yesterday.
Looks beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, it looks nice. I still believe there's a lot of competition out there. They don't have Peter Molyneux anymore. So it might be a little bit difficult to sell this game these days. Maybe not. I don't know if they have enough interesting stuff that is truly unique and can stand out. I didn't read anything negative about this trailer just yet, so people seem to like it. But will people actually buy it within this very competitive environment these days? That's another question.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken a lot about Kingdoms Come, which has been extremely successful. But I mean, I guess what I'm seeing here, or what we saw on screen, was very unique in many ways. Like the blend
you
of
can kick chickens.
Yeah, I'm all about kicking chickens, so let's do that. Okay, Patrick, let's move over to the next item. This is not a political podcast normally.
Let's see.
But I assume this is what they mean here. With U.S. tariffs, okay, on the horizon, Sony moves fast to prevent another PlayStation supply nightmare. So let me just step one step back, because from a hardware perspective, like physical things, I see that as an issue, right? Imports have tariffs. We have them in Europe, all that stuff. When it comes to software, is there anything like that today? I'm actually going to Google this at the same time, but I'm not sure if you know anything about that.
Software. Like, you mean selling digital games, like 100% digital games, no physical copies? That's what you're talking about? Or
Yeah,
are
I'm
you
talking about
also
digital.
talking...
Yeah, digital software.
Well, that's a really good question. I think you can do quite a lot with text there as well. You can prohibit the sales of certain games in certain countries digitally, obviously. I mean, especially in Asia, there's a few countries which are doing that. You basically have no access to these countries because you're entirely blocked out technically. So you could do that. What is your exact question now?
I mean, I guess I'm getting to this. This is what I'm trying to get to. Apparently, there is something called the WTO moratorium. So
All
today,
right.
let me just see if there's a date on this thing. 2024. Okay, so today, countries are prohibited from imposing tariffs on electronic transmissions if the countries attending the WTO ministerial meeting in Abu Dhabi do not agree to extend the moratorium. We're facing a very uncertain digital trade environment. So it seems like, as is right now in the world, you cannot impose, or there are no software tariffs. That's why I'm asking, like, if you think so. We're gonna go from this. We are in the digital age, obviously, but like now, if tariffs are hitting the PS5, right? Does that also apply to software at one point in time? And that's what I was trying to get to.
I
But
mean, if it's
maybe,
technically possible, why
yeah,
wouldn't they use? Why wouldn't they make use of this
yeah. I'm actually
chance?
surprised that there hasn't been any like software wars up until this point. Like if you look at and again, well, this is not a political podcast, but if you look at the global scale, who's not using either a Macintosh or Windows PC? I mean, the only other option is probably Linux, right, as an OS
Yeah, yeah.
for computers and servers. And what happens if somebody says, okay, this country cannot use, or it's not allowed to buy that service anymore? I wonder what that's going to do. We're not there yet, of course, but it makes you wonder.
I don't even dare to comment that, honestly. This is such a complex topic, and
Yeah.
I would love to hear some expert opinions on this, though.
Okay. So just to go back then for the hardware thing and to give some context, under President Trump's latest trade policy, a 10% tariff will be imposed on all imports from China, and a 25% tariff will apply to goods from Mexico and Canada. Oh, that's interesting. And I think this will impact console prices, of course, in the US, since the majority of PlayStation consoles are made in China. There was a time when PlayStation used to also have production of hardware in Japan, but maybe those days are over. I'll have to look at that later. Okay, Patrick, I'll move over to the trends, if that's okay with you. So there's an interview with Genki. Tokyo Extreme Racers is selling like hotcakes. Have you heard about this game? Because
What
it
is it?
reminds me Tokyo Extreme Racers, but it
Ah,
reminds me
right.
a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of uh, Need for Speed Underground.
I'm just wondering, is this this is an actual Japanese game, right?
Seems like it.
Okay, because there's another one which is a French game which is somewhat similar to this, and inspired by the Japanese driving scene. So yeah, I was just wondering if it's that one or the other one.
I'm getting a lot of memories from Tokyo. Sorry, from Need for Speed Underground back in the day.
Yes.
Um, and I feel like this type of game doesn't exist anymore, or is it not that? I mean, in the car games, you have either you're playing Forza or you're playing GT, and anything in between is kind of like either has died off or doesn't perform as well as they used to do back in the day.
Okay, sorry, I was a little slow now. It's also because one of my current flatmates just came in, naked, by the way. You don't want to hear about that. That's a whole different. He's just coming from the swimming pool. That's
Yep.
one of the benefits being in Thailand. Not the naked flatmates though. So Shutoko Battle. This game is Shutoko Battle in original. I forgot about that, but yeah, this is like a long-running IP, I think, if I remember correctly. A very successful one in Japan specifically. So these kind of games, we had a similar struggle at Bandai Namco at that time with racing games. We were publishing some racing game series at that time, and we have the biggest struggle is that almost all modern setting open world games already feature cars and racing and all these things. If you want to play a racing game, you can play GTA. You have a racing game in GTA with a lot of options, even with like build your own track stuff within the online mode. You can play online absolutely free and everything. You have everything you need in a game like GTA, as an example. And on top of that, of course, there is still these long-running game series, as the ones you mentioned, like Forza. And Forza is very, very unique if it comes to quality. This is like incredible production value in Forza, right? I mean, GTA obviously also has incredible production value, but those values are spread across all the different features in GTA. Here, with a game like Forza, they focus so much on the racing aspect, on everything you need for racing, and therefore it still has enough value to play that game specifically. Here for the Tokyo Extreme Racer or Shutoko Battle kind of game, this one is unique in its own manner because it focuses especially on this Japanese type of racing scene with drifting, the kind of style they are having, which is very unique, and all such things, right? So it's a much more narrow target group, I'm sure, but these will pay for getting what they want.
I mean, do you think these games haven't been available in the West, or what's going on? Like, what do you think is driving the sale?
I'm not perfectly sure when they are. I know they have been released in the West in the past. I just don't know which title they started with.
Sorry, did you use another title before for the game?
I said
you use the Japanese name for it?
I hope I'm not confusing these games now because I didn't really play them myself and my knowledge is kind of limited there. But I think the original title of the game is Shutoko Battle.
Shotoko Bataru. To be in, yes.
Oh, that's
I believe.
maybe not appropriate. I'm sorry.
let me bring that up on Wikipedia. So I think
do speak a little Japanese too.
Okay, so I think what happened is they changed the name to Tokyo Extreme Racers
for the West, yes.
Yes, and that is probably one of the fueling aspects of the game's success. And it seems like this is like almost a 30-year-old franchise, going back all the way to 1994. And there used to be a lot more.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I believe not all of these have released in the West. Probably only half of these, but maybe I'm absolutely mistaken, and all of them released in the West.
Okay. I won't dwell on it too much. I will move over to the next item then on the list. In the trends, Obsidian CEO reveals it's just half the size of many AAA studios, even as it prepares to launch its fourth game in 5 years. Okay, holy shit, I didn't even know that Obsidian launched 4 games in 5 years. That's amazing.
Which were these games, actually?
I actually want to find out myself. Obsidian Studio. Let's find that out. Obsidian Entertainment. Here we go. Hopefully Wikipedia can help us figure that out. Did they do that Rick and Morty game? Let me see here. Okay, let's go. So. The Outer Worlds 2. This should be coming this year. Avowed was released, I believe, February 18th. There you go. That was recent. There was Pentiment. No idea what that is. Role-playing video game. And then there's Grounded. That's 2022. The Outer Worlds 2000.
Pentiment, right. Pentiment is great, actually. You should play that. I didn't play it, but I have seen it, and it's incredibly creative.
Any thoughts on the size of studios? I mean, we are obviously the past 2 years has just seen layoffs back and forth at an incredible pace, and we think that it's ending, but it's never ending. But any thoughts about that, about sustainability and building a studio that can, like, operate in a sustainable way?
I believe, well, a lot of studios I work with or I hear about, I believe are too big. We have too many people at the studios. And I've seen incredible things done in short time by very small teams. This is absolutely possible. And sometimes you're even faster just due to the fact that you're less people. Because you also need to communicate less, or the communication overall becomes less complicated. People may be a little bit more passionate sometimes even. The bigger the team, the smaller you feel in a whole big project, right? You start believing yourself. It doesn't matter if I'm here or not. And according to that, people will might also likely act, right, and work with that kind of mindset. But if you're only 4 people and you want to create something great because you're really passionate about that product, you know that your work has a lot of impact, right? We see that with there's a recent game, Star of Providence. I think it's in early access for 2 years already on PC, but now it's released like fully, if I'm not mistaken. At least for Switch, it fully released, and this is a piece of art, and it's a lot of fun. And it's made by 4 people working together for quite a while, though. But they have created something really, really great here. I know it looks like one of those indie titles, but it's much bigger than that. And that's what I see a lot. If you put passion into a product, and if you feel like your work has impact, the output will be so much better in many cases. And
I was gonna say that after playing Vampire Survivors, like judging a game by its cover, that's like, long gone. And just like
people don't do that anymore, by the way. Especially Gen Z, they like us old people, right? We are still attracted to nice and fancy graphics because back in school, we were talking about graphics. Wow, this game has such great graphics. That looks so real and everything. Now, these days, every game looks great. You don't care about that much anymore. But you play, and then you feel. And this is much more important. And even it doesn't matter so much anymore how great a game looks or what kind of production values it has. If the gameplay, if the game design is good, or if it's full of bugs or technical issues and everything, then it's still not going to be fun. And people have realized that by now. So, yeah, that's probably also one of the reasons why even a company like Obsidian doesn't only release Elder Scrolls games, but also something like Pentiment, which is an incredibly creative and really, really, really good game. You should play it for sure.
Probably motivating as well for the people working there, that they can do something smaller.
Oh yeah, you can see the love in that game for sure.
Absolutely. But I was going to say that, just to comment on the graphics situation, I mean, there has been a leveling of the playing field, basically, in relationship to that. So that's not a selling point anymore. Yeah. But just to give some context, then, since 2018, Obsidian has grown to nearly 300 employees. Now, in comparison, if we want to look at Bungie, which is 850, and I'm not sure if this is post them releasing some people, unfortunately. CD Projekt Red, 600, Larian, 470, Bethesda, 450 plus, Insomniac, 450, Naughty Dog, 400. What's interesting, I mean, I'll bring this up again and again and again. I think Uncharted 2, like the cost of development for that game was $20 million, and then you go and look at The Last of Us 2 10 years later, and it's like 100 million plus, which is just absurd, right?
Yeah.
And what I usually say is that playing Uncharted 2, it's not a terrible experience or a bad experience in comparison. And I'm not sure if The Last of Us 2 was a better experience. So that's a thing to keep in mind. And hopefully people can listen to. Well, I mean, hopefully people can listen to what you're saying about, like, the focus on design and having gameplay that is fun is the number one thing. So
yeah, people are gonna hate me for that. I shouldn't say it, but I think Last of Us 2 is overrated.
I would sure. I mean, I guess what you're getting. I mean, there are parts. We can talk about this for hours. I believe, of course. I think from a world building perspective, from a graphical perspective, no doubt. From a gameplay perspective and a fun perspective, was it more fun than The Last of Us 1? No.
That is my point. That's exactly my point.
I mean, I don't think anybody will hate you for that. I mean, that's the truth. That's the reality.
I'm gonna get cancelled, I think. Luckily,
okay.
I don't have any followers anyway, so.
So there you go. Let's go over to the next item on the list, which is the Callisto Protocol's Striking Distance Studios. Now, I know the what's his name again now? I forgot his name. But the founder of that studio left not so long ago. And now, unfortunately, we're seeing the continued cascade on that studio. Lays off most of its developers. I don't know what that means with most. If most, is that 90%?
That's at least 50%.
Well, the recent layoffs at the, let me see here if I can find that information, because it's very sad to hear that. They tried to do a Dead Space type game, but I feel like it was just a bit unfortunate because it seems like the production quality was okay. It was a good game, but the timing of like that audience maybe has moved on to other things. Any thoughts on that?
We had the Dead Space remake coming out after Callisto Protocol, I think, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that sold pretty well. What I feared, I didn't play it. I really wanted to play it, but then I saw the reviews. I love horror games, by the way. This is also why I love Silent Hill. But at that time, the reviews went very good, and this is why I actually didn't play it eventually. And yeah, again, if you don't have the substance ready, that is a big issue. And I'm sure this team is really, really talented, and they really tried. A lot of the aspects I saw, at least, seemed really interesting as well. But eventually, it was simply not fun enough.
I'm reading here a report that Dead Space 2 Remake sold 2 million copies, and maybe that's not enough in the world of EA, basically.
2 million doesn't sound much, that's true, but
no, in this day and age, unfortunately. I mean, remember back in the day when if you sold 1 million copy, it's like, you made it. But today, unfortunately, that is not the case anymore. Okay, so we spoke about NetEase last week. NetEase is doing some good things, but unfortunately there are some other realities. And this is, that's why this is part of the trends again. So in an industry earthquake, NetEase plans to cut more all-star game studios. Do you know what's happening? Like with, I mean, we did talk about this last week and the week before about, I mean, Chinese developers are getting better. They're releasing better games, right? Or like blockbusters, Wukong, Marvel Rivals, and the list goes on. And they used to, the past 4 years or 5 years or even a bit more, we've seen so many investments from Chinese companies, NetEase, Tencent, etc., even Korean ones, Krafton, etc., happening in Western studios. And now we're seeing a pullback. What are your thoughts about that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that, and it's all highly speculative, I would say. And it might also have to do with political reasons and such things. I don't even know where to start.
I mean, is there a political thing here? Do you think?
I honestly think, and I think I have to be really careful about what I say now. But I believe almost everything we see, like if it comes to trading, if it comes to economy, coming from China, somehow is having some political intentions in some way. Doesn't mean this is bad or good or anything. I mean, trading in general is a political thing to a big degree. Everyone is using that. Europe, US these days a lot as well. We have trade wars. It's all political and such things. What I'm also seeing overall with technologies in China, it's incredible what they're building these days. I believe they are far, far ahead with a lot of things there, thanks to investments. But I'm also seeing that they're pulling back a lot of things, a lot of people as well from Western countries back into China. That could be because they want to have the knowledge back to China, because maybe they have learned enough in the West, and now China is taking over anyways in so many disciplines that they can't learn much more in the West. That could be one theory. I'm not saying that is my theory, but that could be one way. And maybe something similar is happening in the gaming market. And maybe they are also seeing that Western gaming studios, a lot of them don't have the same discipline as they have in Chinese studios. And again, discipline sounds like a good thing, doesn't necessarily need to be a good thing. I mean, discipline can be created in many different ways, in good ways and in bad ways. So I'm not sure what's going on. I have no idea. But maybe they're also seeing that. And therefore, it's more difficult to work with Western studios. We gathered all the knowledge we needed over there. And now it's time to take everything back to China, actually, and create everything from here, because we can see now we have this resources, we have the knowledge, we have the creativity now in China to create these products ourselves, and even greater ones partially. Maybe that is happening, and I'm not saying this is what is happening, but it's a little bit of a hint.
So just to help you out a bit here, because this article is from GameFile, and one of their sources, this is what they're saying. NetEase plans to divest itself of the majority of its overseas teams, leading to the potential closure of more than a dozen game studios if they cannot secure new post-NetEase funding. So that's what I'm reading now. It does seem like it's both like, okay, we've made our bets, but these bets need to go out there and do something to continue. Otherwise, we'll just let them, go, so to say.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm not the expert who should be talking about these topics. We have one expert in our rows, who's Bibi, right? I would love to hear her opinion on that, actually.
Absolutely. You're in Thailand.
Yeah.
This might be something for you. So, Gamescom Asia and the Thailand Game Show merged to form Gamescom Asia X Thailand Game Show. That's a very long mouthful. Did you know about the Thailand Game Show? Is that a big thing?
I have never been there yet, but I have heard some good things about it. What I'm seeing, visiting a few conferences now in Southeast Asia, is that there's a lot of passionate talent over here. Not only in Thailand, but also in the Philippines, in Indonesia. These are the countries I dealt with. They have a lot of passion. They need more technical know-how, more professional game design know-how, I believe, especially if it comes to user retention and monetization and such. But the passion is there. And games is a big deal for Southeast Asia, I believe. If they already, a lot of these countries are really good at outsourcing, right? Like providing the assets we need. A lot of the games we love have assets, like Halo, for example, has assets made in the Philippines. These beautiful graphics, these beautiful Master Chief armor and everything, right? Yeah. I believe big part of that stuff is made in the Philippines. Can't tell you what exactly. But these things are happening. And now they only have to learn how to put all these assets in place so they can create their own successful games. And this is what they're currently trying to understand. And I believe these can absolutely be the markets of the future. Maybe not necessarily in terms of spending, but maybe in terms of making games. Discipline, creativity, and also the know-how. It's all growing here and it's becoming better. And maybe they can soon compete with Europe and the US if it comes to making games.
And that's why you're almost shifting your own entire business to, you've been there, you're spending like more than 6 months in Asia.
Yeah. Well, it's really, really interesting to see what's going on here, at least. And I like to make these contacts early. And I'm trying to help out here as well, trying to get knowledge over from the West over here, so they can, I can help accelerating this entire process a little bit. Yes.
You are ahead of the game, Patrick.
Let's see.
Okay, so last item on the list. So there are no rumors today, but on the number side, this is an interesting one. I mean, speaking of a Chinese-made game or Asian-made games, 30% of Black Myth Wukong players aren't from China.
Yeah.
That's what the game director or the game's art director says. So, I mean, you did touch upon a bit about the consumption, but I mean, the Chinese audience is not an audience to ignore.
Absolutely not. But it's also an audience really difficult to reach. Your average AAA title usually has about 15 to 20% of sales in China, which is already huge. Even though you don't officially release your game in China, it might happen. It makes a lot of sense these days to have both the traditional and the modern Chinese localization in your games. And well, it is a huge market. If you want it or not, if you put a great game out there, Chinese users will also purchase that great game. And you miss out on a lot of sales if you don't optimize it for Chinese users.
That's a really good point. I was speaking to the developer behind Sulphur, if you know that game, Anton, great guy, and he was telling me that they made huge sales in China, and he was telling me the importance of communicating with those players through any social media that is very special to China, like Weibo or other platforms. But what is interesting as well, and what he told me, is that you don't need to go to the Chinese version of Steam to make these sales. Just make sure that you're supporting the Chinese audience directly through the normal Steam, because most of them, if I understand correctly, are using VPN to play and buy games.
Chinese people are extremely creative in getting the stuff they want. And if you don't let them pay for the stuff they want, then they will also get it in other ways without paying.
Okay, there you go. Patrick, we've reached the end. I know we kept you more than what we promised initially, so I really appreciate your time and effort being here. Also, I mean, amazing discussion, and I love your insight here. I really appreciate it. I think I asked you this months ago, but I'll ask it again. Where can people follow you, find you, all that type of stuff?
Oh, yeah, right. So please follow me on my YouTube. This is getting more and more interesting. I have a lot of free content there. Just type in Patrick Rose Game to YouTube, and you will find me easily. And other than this, check out my page, patrickrose.io, and you will see how you can access my free Discord community where I get free webinars. You can see my online course there and everything. So please stay in contact. And of course, as always, as usual, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to hear from you, really.
Awesome. And again, I mean, I hate to repeat this. I always say that in every episode, but any sharing, liking, subscribing, all that type of stuff will help us greatly. So that would be really appreciated. Of course, the most important thing that you need to pay attention to, in under 30 seconds, every Friday at 9 a.m. CET European time, you'll get our newsletter, the Games Industry Executive Summary. Subscribe, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you, Patrick, again for joining us, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much, Casey. Thank you, everyone.